So tonight we're here with someone very special to me. I would describe him as a game changer. I would describe him as an entrepreneur. I would just also describe him as someone with a really special spirit, and that transcends into everything that you do. Tonight we have Iman Gadzhi. Iman, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So Iman, if you don't know already, which I'm sure you do, founder of GrowYourAgency, IAG Media, now a clothing line.
Yeah, very, very exciting.
And so, okay, we're going to be real. We're going to do this a little bit differently to the normal podcasts. Tell me, who is the real Imam? Who's the real Imam?
If I had to boil down my personality as simply as possible, I am curious, inquisitive, and whether it dents my ego, whether it's hurtful, I'm always just trying to find the truth.
Okay, I love that. I'm going to give a little bit of context of how I know you. So I have been one of your clients, and I think that makes our friendship and relationship even more special. For me, he was someone that just threw some goalposts right out there. I had a preconception about your age, as you know.
I think we met when I was 17?
17, 18, yeah.
17.
Yeah, and I was just like, okay, keep an open mind. I've been in business for over 20 years. And I have to say, I meet people every day. People put proposals forward to us every day. Iman's was one of the most slick, professional, mature, and just excellent proposals that had been put in front of me for a hell of a long time in business, and it shifted everything for me, like new levels of respect, and it taught me a lesson not to be so judgmental. So I love everything that you just said. We kind of both come from the same place in our backgrounds, but tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Yeah, so I grew up in a place called Dagestan in the south of Russia. The only way that I describe it to people is, first of all, I ask them if they've seen the movie Borat. Most people have. And I'm like, just imagine that, except not in Kazakhstan, in Russia. And that is legitimately where I'm from. Just a little village, little town. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a little village boy. And that was my start. I lived there until I was 3 or 4 years old. And then my mom met my stepdad and moved to London. And it was meant to be this fairy tale ending. Didn't exactly turn out that way, but...
And how old were you when you moved over?
I moved to London when I was 4 years old, yeah. And it was all very, very new to me. I went from 9 black and white channels to 999 color channels.
Yeah.
And Sweet Life of Zach and Cody was the shit. Am I allowed to swear on here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet Life of Zach and Cody changed my life.
Would you say... Okay, let me ask the question another way. Where did you get your sense of self-belief? Because that's something that I really feel from you. Even when you were 17 and you walked in here into my office, you had a presence and a self-belief, which a lot of the biggest game changers, top businessmen, and people who really thrive with excellence do. So where did that sort of sense of innate belief for you come from?
I think my self-belief comes from reference points of where, just remembering all the times where I quite frankly was alone, felt alone, and had so much self-responsibility that I had to step up to the plate. And I think my self-belief comes from the same place that your self-belief comes from, which is just total self-reliance, knowing that no matter what life throws at you, and this isn't just coming from some weird egotistical place. As I said, you and I both have reference points where we have been through such horrific, such testing events in our life. We've gone past them, and you know, those scars really do build up a shield, build up your self-belief.
Is there one particular tipping point moment? Because there usually is for people. There's always like one tipping point moment. Can you talk about one of those?
Honestly,
that stands out.
Honestly,
that was the shift.
There was no real tipping point for me. It was more just from the age of and I think anyone who goes through, anyone who has to grow up a little bit too quick, they become very, very self-aware. And when you become very, people talk a lot about like, oh, I was a child, so it didn't make sense to me, or I couldn't quite understand the situation. Yeah. As far as I can remember, from the age of 8 or 9, I understood every single situation. Mm-hmm. I understood the dynamic between my mother and my stepfather. I understood the dynamic financially in our family. I understood everything that was going on, and that was because I was kind of thrown into the deep end, and I had to grow up a little too quick. And I mean, I'm happy. I'm over the moon about how my childhood went, because it's made me who I am today.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Quite frankly, like, I just had to grow up a little too quick. So for me, it wasn't, and you're right, I think most people have that definitive, life-changing moment where everything changes, or, everything just kind of snaps into place, and they realize what's in front of them. For me, it wasn't so much like that. It was just a gradual, every single year from a very, very young age, just, just, as I said, just growing up too quick, and being very self-aware about, what the future has in store for me and my mom. And like literally from the age of 9, I literally remember being like, I have to be the man of the house, or we are screwed. Yeah. And it worked out that way. Can
you give me a more detailed example?
Yeah, of course. I mean, off camera, Marie and I were talking, and she's like, is anything off limits? And I said, no, literally nothing is off limits. So my real father was biological father was alcoholic, abusive. So never met him. I say that I met him once when I was 8, very briefly. So he was never in the picture. So it was just me and my stepdad, and I actually used to call my stepdad Dad. I used to call him Paul. And as I said, we moved to London, and it was meant to be this fairy tale ending, but it didn't really work out that way. From the age of like 6, 7, 8, there started to be some chinks in the armor. The marriage, I wouldn't say it fell apart, but
you could tell that
I could tell, and I would get exposed to things. Like I even remember being, this maybe 8 years old at the time, picking up the phone rings, home phone rings. I pick it up. I'm like, hello. They're like, hi, is this Anan? My stepdad's name. I'm like, no. They're like, oh yes, this is London something Escorts. And I was like, and I had no. So I put the phone down, and my mom was like, who was that? And I'm like, I was
what do you say?
No. I mean, I'm 8 years old, so I kind of understand what it means, which most 8-year-olds definitely don't.
No.
But I say, oh, it was London Escorts, and she's like, I could see her face drop, and I knew. I didn't quite exactly know what it was, but I knew enough. I knew the rough estimation of it, and that was the same day that my stepfather was arriving back from Dubai.
Wow.
And it was so weird. He would always be, once he landed at Heathrow, he would always come back 4 or 5 hours later. It was very odd. But, I saw my mom's face drop, and like, even just stuff like that, where like at the age of 8, you're just getting exposed to, and I even remember saying to her, I'm like, because I saw her face drop, so I was like, no, you don't understand. It's an escort, so they escort him from the airport to the house, like it's a driver. And just things like that. I mean, there's, my childhood's littered with examples where I just grew up a little too quick, but I'm so grateful that I did.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, and there are lots of parallels there between you and I. You really understand what that sense of self is, like you say, self-reliance, and that it really is all within. It's going to have to come from you. Any change is going to have to come from you, and you only. But also I think, and I've always felt this from you over the years, that you have a very deep connection with your mum, and a very deep bond with your mum. Tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, what can I say? My mom was my best friend. My entire family is still out in Russia. A very big family, but for me, as long as I can remember, my family has just been me and my mom. And my connection to my mom is seeing what she went through and knowing that, you know, my mom is relatively young. She had me when she was 23.
Yeah, she is very young. I also know Iman's mom. She is young. She's beautiful. She's an amazing woman. Yeah.
The most naturally beautiful woman on earth, glowing, and besides that, just such an amazing heart. So seeing someone go through, and obviously I never actually got to see the physical abuse with my biological father, but obviously I came to learn about it and the extent that it went to. And, you know, seeing someone who's quite literally an angel, as I said, I didn't get to see the physical side of things, but, you know, in the second marriage, you know, heavy emotional abuse, and just seeing someone really tormented. I mean, I know it's every single day seeing your best friend just, as I said, just absolutely tormented. So I think for me, from the age of 8 or 9, I felt protective and not in the way that you're normally protected by your mom, in literally almost like responsible almost in like a fatherly aspect, where I was like, I literally have to take care of this person. And I'm not gonna lie, after everything that my mom's been through, which would take me a full 6-hour podcast to go through, I'm very, very surprised that she doesn't have like very deep rooted emotional and mental issues. And to be honest, I'm very, very surprised that she can live life with a smile on her face after everything she's been through.
Don't ever underestimate mums.
Yeah, you're right.
And women, just in general. Just put that out there. Thank you for sharing that, because I know that was deep and that was personal to you. And we could go on and talk about this. There's so much there. But I'm aware we don't have that much time with you tonight. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Best piece of advice I've ever been given.
And that can come in any shape or form. It can come through a mentor, it can be through someone you meet in the street, something synchronous. What's the best? It could be from your mom. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
That's a tough one, because there's so many examples and so many different facets of my life. Because one approach that the approach that I have to business is so radically different to the approach that I have to my spirituality, to my relationships.
Well, we're going to get into the spiritual bit. So what inspired you? Give me a business example. What was the best? What is the best bit of advice that you've ever been given? What spurred you on? I mean, just in terms of business, it's just everything that I do has a long-term view. And I think I'd say the best piece of wisdom that I've gotten is from people who are older than me. And people who are older than me consistently just instill in me how much time I have, which for me is a struggle, because, you know, oh my God, I wish I had known this. How old are you now?
19.
Go ahead.
And you know, obviously this isn't applicable to everyone, but for me, I'm a person who wants to achieve everything, and I want to have achieved it yesterday. I don't beat myself up if I don't achieve it, but I'm a person who's just hyper focused, hyper competitive. So for me, sometimes it's just amazing to be around some of my friends who are older and have that wisdom, and just kind of and really just tell me, really map it out for me just how much time I do have. And really just to enjoy the process. I love hanging out with some of my friends who are way older, ultra wealthy.
Can you give some names? No.
I'll give you an example. I was with one of my friends at Annabelle's. He's 33. He's in the hundreds of millions, and he just, every time I see him, he's like, Iman, just honestly, my biggest regret is I just didn't enjoy the process. I was living for the result, and I just wasn't enjoying the process. And every single time I hear someone say that, I'm like, tell me something more obvious. But
the difference with you is that you get it, because there are a lot of people of all ages, actually, not necessarily just young. Let's put that out there, because my perception of age has changed completely, having met you and the other people that I've met. But really understanding that is something else that, you know, in a sense, time is infinite, but also it's not. And every moment counts, and to make every part of it as awesome and as fantastic as it can be, because now is all there is, really. So you get that on a high level, and I think that's amazing.
And I think in order to truly understand a paradigm, you have to go through it.
Yes.
And I think you also get to a point where you trick yourself. You get to a point where you've tricked yourself enough times to realize like, okay, no, it was the last time that I said that when this area of my life gets to a certain level, then I'll be satisfied, or then I'll look back with some pride. And you hit that goalpost, and you trick yourself enough times. You're like, no, I thought that would be the case last time.
It doesn't happen. I've met people. I know people in their 60s, and they're like, when this happens, it doesn't. It just doesn't. You never really get there. The whole thing is the game, is the whole joy of it. I love that. Can we just check his birth certificate? You're really nice. No. Okay, tell me, what's the worst bit of advice you've ever been given?
I can't pinpoint anything specifically, but the worst piece of advice that I've been given has been a few different pieces of advice, but all that come from a place of scarcity.
Yeah.
And a lot of people.
Oh, I love that.
A lot of people who live from a place of scarcity, they want other people to see it the exact same worldview.
Yeah.
And they want to instill in you that same worldview, and they want to give you their sort of cynical worldview. And it's hard to live life in abundance, and it's like you're hanging on to the edge of a cliff, and you're thinking, if I let go, if I'm
if I let go, oh, I know that feeling. Yeah.
If I let go, if I'm abundant in all areas of my life. And the thing is, like, I think there's two aspects of it, and one thing that you do so well is you marry the two. You marry hardcore results and spirituality. Yeah. And I think if you isolate either camp, you're headed for a wreck. Yeah. And when you can marry the two, you can go, okay, I can live in abundance because I know I have the actual skill set to make my life abundant, whether that comes to relationships, whether that comes to friendships, whether that's in terms of business, whatever that may be. Yeah. You know that you have that skill set, and that's that core belief, but then you also need that worldview in order to manifest it all the time. Yeah,
you need both. And this is, I think the world is changing. I think the consciousness now is changing. And we have game changers like yourself that are coming through this evolutionary process. I'm not going to use the word spiritual in this case, but evolutionary process so much quicker than I did. If I think of myself at 19, you don't want to even know, so that's amazing. That opens up a whole new paradigm for business and beyond. And I think that's what we need more of. We need more people like you. Definitely. And also I think it's about being authentic, because you are very authentic. Talk to me a little bit about your daily ritual. Like a day, what's a day in the life of Iman like? A standard day.
The past 2 months have been all over the place, but I'm very regimented. Probably a little too regimented.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. Tell me more. I want to know.
To the point where there's my nighttime routine. I have a standard operating procedure for that.
Okay. Would you like to share your standard nighttime operating procedure? Take note, everybody, and it doesn't matter what age you are, because when you have someone at this level, you want to take notes.
Okay, so my nighttime standard operating procedure, which by the way is printed out as well, because
okay, that's the difference between you at 19 and me at 19. I did not have a standard nighttime operating procedure. I still don't know. I can't. Okay,
so, and I got that idea because I was sitting in a plane. I was like, on my way in, I glanced left at the cockpit, and I was like, that looks so complicated. How the hell do they run that? And I was like, I remember all the times where I used to watch with my stepdad air crash investigation, and I saw they would have the clipboards and they'd literally go through their operating procedure. I'm like, I should do that with some areas of my life. So that's what I do with my nighttime routine. So my nighttime routine basically goes, I go into my kitchen, I turn on the kettle, and I prepare my sleepy time tea, my loose leaf chamomile tea.
See, incredible. Tea drinkers are of another level.
There you go. That's the secret.
Yeah.
So I take that tea brews for 3-4 minutes. While the tea is brewing, I go to my bedroom, lay out my gym clothes for the next day. Then I go back to my kitchen, I go back to my kitchen, pour myself the tea, take it into my office. Now, when I get to my office, first things first is any last messages that I need to send on that day from my phone, I send, and then I put my phone on airplane mode and then put it in my vault.
Wow.
Well, actually, that's a lie. I turn my phone off and put it in my vault.
Okay.
Because for me, I don't want anyone to rob me of my focus. To me, focus is more important. Time's important, but I'd actually say focus is even more important.
I agree, and I think in modern times it's even more hard to focus than ever before, because we're bombarded with our digital devices, and if we have stuff going on the outside and you're doing 2 or 3 things at the same time, you see it everywhere.
I mean, at the end of the day,
do it at home. I do it.
At the end of the day, my business is both my businesses involve advertising, paid traffic, but my business, IAG Media, it's an online advertising agency. At the end of the day, what I do is I take attention that Facebook has collected, and I buy that attention, aka that advertising space. So in the same way, a drug dealer, number one rule, not that I know, but number one rule of being a drug dealer, a very successful one,
take notes,
is never use your own product.
Yeah.
In the exact same way, I may run an online advertising agency. I may get a lot of sales for the education company through our advertising campaigns, social campaigns. But I'm not going to be an idiot and use my own product.
No.
Because to me, social media is one of the worst plagues on earth.
Yeah.
Opens up a lot of opportunity.
Yeah. This is a thing. It's a blessing and a curse. It's both. It's that double-edged sword. But yeah, I agree with you.
So for me, I need to mitigate that as much as possible. So as I said, turn my phone off, stick it in my vault. I've got 2 phones. So the other phone just has Uber, Spotify, Audible, some other stuff.
Yeah.
So that phone comes out of the vault. I turn that one on.
All right.
Then I open up my computer. I open up my company P&L. So obviously I have an accountant, but then I do my own P&L.
Yeah.
So always looking at the company cash flow, watching the numbers like a hawk. So I do that, and then I open up my biohacking sheet. So my personal trainer.
This is interesting. We're going to go down the biohacking rabbit hole. I love this. Okay, tell us what's your biohacking little checklist then?
So my biohacking checklist is everything I do gets tracked. So one of my very, very cool company, they were actually one of my old clients, a company called Oura Ring. So I wear it at night, and that tracks that tracks my deep sleep, REM sleep, etc., etc. So he punches that in I think around midday from the last night's sleep.
How many hours are you getting a night?
Honestly, earlier this year, like of actual sleep, 7.5, 8.5, incredible.
That's incredible. He doesn't have kids. He's 19.
This month I've been, so basically every morning on our team call, me and my entire team, we compare Oura Ring stats at the end.
I have a friend who would absolutely love to be part of your team, actually, just for that very reason. Okay, continue.
So recently, this month, my team has just been grilling me every morning, because this month I've been so off routine. But anyways, so I open up my biohacking, super important, but biohacking sheet. So basically, the reason I do that is I just start to look at some trends, and I also track my meditation with something called a Muse headband, which is an EEG reader. So basically what I'm doing is, in the same way I'm looking at my company cash flow and I'm trying to spot some trends, I'm looking at my my biohacking sheet, and I'm trying to spot some trends and see, okay, if I did this, like there's just simple things that you can figure out, like eating a certain amount of time before bed, and you can literally see the difference in REM sleep and deep sleep. Yeah. So without going into detail.
Wow. Okay, so we clearly need to get Iman out again just for that to see what the trends are saying, because there's not many people that actually monitor all of the trends all the way through. That's incredible. Okay.
So after I do that, I'm keeping in mind this entire time I'm drinking my tea and getting super drowsy. I have some very expensive biohacking equipment. Okay. I probably have, sleep-wise, I probably have 20 to 30,000 pounds worth of just sleep biohacking equipment. I try everything. And nothing works better than my 6-pound loose leaf chamomile tea.
Yeah,
so nothing.
100%. Yeah, simple is always best.
So I'm drinking that, and after that I go on to my planner. So I'll always plan the next day. So I have this custom planner that I made myself on Google Sheets. And in the education company, I make all these like custom trackers and like even the biohacking Google Sheets.
Okay, I think I need to get all of those from you.
I'll send you them. I'll send you the trackers and stuff like that.
I think people listening to this might even want. We'll talk about that separately. That's incredible. What time do you wake up?
So I wake up at 6:30. My personal trainer is at my house for 6:50.
Okay.
So he physically comes to my house, which is awesome because I never get to sleep in ever, even if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And he brings in my food, so I get something called Pure Package. So it's fresh food delivered every day on my doorstep. So it's to the level where I want all areas of my life that I don't find any enjoyment in. Either don't benefit me and my growth, or I don't find enjoyment in. I just don't want to do them. So even little things like putting my food inside my own fridge, some people would say that's pretentious. There's a lot of areas of my life that some people would be like, oh, that's pretentious.
Okay.
I'm like, well, while I have a long life to live, I also want to spend my time doing the things I enjoy.
They may think it's pretentious, but if it works for you, then it works for you.
I mean, even little things like, as I said, my friend that I was having dinner with. No, this is a different friend. I think it's 3 weeks ago. It said some people might think it's pretentious, but I even look at people at a level so far ahead of me, and I'm like, I can't believe you do that. Like I even have some of my friends where like I'm talking like they're personal friends of mine, not like loose friends or a business.
You know them well. These are not BSing.
These are homies of mine.
Yeah.
And if I want to see them for dinner, I have to get in contact with their assistant. And to me, I'm like, that is ridiculous. Like, we're friends. But at the end of the day, they are so far ahead in life for a specific reason. And there's certain things you do at different pillars in your life. And if you want to get to the next level, sometimes you just have to do what is seen as wackier and crazier and more of the top things.
There's not one way. There's not one path. Everyone has their own way of approaching and managing themselves and their life. I think what's amazing to hear from you is to me it sounds like you're maximizing your potential every day. And that not only that, but you have the willpower to do it. And that's what a lot of people lack in most of their life, and especially at this age. But at all ages, and there's been times when I've been really super driven, super focused, super everything, just in alignment, in flow, and other times where if I was sick or whatever, that you can't. But when you know how important it is maximizing your day, you have a very different view of the world, and your output's going to be different. Of course it is. If you were spending an hour on Netflix every night, you'd be a different person. But the mindset is really interesting. Your discipline, I don't use that word very often, but you sound very, very disciplined. So now I'm going to take you in a little bit of a different tangent now, and I want to talk to you about meditation, because it's something that you and I bonded on when we met a couple of years ago. And so tell me your story. Tell me your meditation story. Where did it start for you?
So when I was 14, it's kind of when I just picked up my first self-help book.
What was the book?
I really should know this. I don't. I know this. I honestly, I don't remember. But it would have been very, very funny if I had said Tony Robbins. But
Tony Robbins.
Yeah, honestly, I don't really remember, but when I was 14, I kind of started getting into self-development. From the age of 14 to 17, I read a book a week for 3 years.
I hear that so often from so many game changers, just this consumption of knowledge and information. And it's so valuable. I hear this all the time. There are parallels with certain types of people that I read a book a week. So that's one of them. Yeah.
Well, as I said, I was reading a book a week, and like I was looking at, for me, I'm just constantly looking to stack positive habits on top of each other. And one thing, as you said, you notice there's extreme commonalities between very, very successful people, between game changers, and meditation was one of those things that I was like, all right, let me do it then. I was like I didn't even have to think. I didn't have to think about the science behind it. I didn't have to think about.
Did it.
I was just like, all right. So the people who are where I want to be, they're telling me to do this, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'll do it. So from there, I started meditating, and like everything in my life, every positive habit that I kind of bring in, I get really, really intrigued and really into it. And
I love that. And so you started when you were 14, and are you not a good word, religious, but are you as disciplined about it? Is it an everyday thing for you,
yes.
without fail?
Except for this month, and I notice it.
Yeah.
I really, honestly, it's so
I love
apparent.
that you say that, because high five me. When you stop, you feel it, and you feel its impact. It's actually quite a profound thing. Talk me through that. So you're making sure that you've got it back in now every day, and So what did you notice? What was the change when you stopped meditating?
I mean, it's so funny as humans. Like there's, there'll be weeks where we feel down, and we're like, oh man, I really feel down this week. And then you think about it, and you're like, oh yeah, I've only been getting like 4 hours sleep a night. Right? And there's just such obvious things that stand out to you. And this month, I've just felt. I mean, this month has been very hectic, and I've been very out of schedule the past 2 months because there's been a lot of projects that have finally like launched and come into fruition. But I've been I felt a lot more anxious this month than I normally do. And I thought about it, I was like, oh, it's so weird. I just feel very anxious and on edge for no reason. It's like, I wonder why that is. Oh, I haven't meditated in 2 weeks. I wonder why.
Yeah. And how long are you doing it? What's your sort of set time? Because everyone has a different set time. I know some people who can sit down for an hour, and I'm like, whoa. Yeah. But after about 45 minutes, like it's 45 minutes is my maximum. So how long do you like to sit down for?
So these days, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
After I go to the gym, after I shower, I meditate right before I get into work. Now, when I was 14, as I said,
That's incredible doing that at 14.
Well, I mean, I got very, I had it almost like a training protocol. I had a different form or variation of meditation. So sometimes I'd be doing Vipassana, sometimes I'd be doing Kundalini meditation.
You were doing Kundalini meditation at 14? Were you really?
Yeah. And I remember I felt like I was levitating. And one story that I always find amusing is when I was 14, 15, 16, I was building my business while I was in school. So I was getting like 2-3 hours sleep a night, which I do not recommend to anyone. Get your sleep, it's honestly so important. But so I didn't have much time. So I remember I used to meditate in my lunch breaks in the bathroom in my school at the top floor. Okay. And the top floor was pretty quiet, but every once in a while, someone would go in there to take a dump, and honestly, it was painful. It was painful.
But even that didn't stop you. You never wavered through that, Imam.
You have to stay.
That's why at 19 you are where you are, sweetheart.
You have to stay present to it.
Right notes. Stay present, even in the school toilets.
Yeah.
Tell me, because I feel like if I couldn't have respected you more, or I thought I couldn't respect you more, but I do now. It's just like another level. Tell me about the spiritual path for you now. And I use that word carefully because it's a different thing for different people, but there's a new sort of, not new, but there's a slightly different tangent for you now in terms of your spirituality. So talk to me a little bit about that if you're willing to share.
Yeah, so in terms of my spiritual journey, I'm not religious as per se. Okay. But
what did you grow up as?
Technically, my family back in Russia are Muslim. Okay. That's why my name is Arabic. Okay. But never really. I've always believed in some sort of higher power. I believe in guardian angels, things like that. But that's the thing. I'm still young, and at 30, who knows what I'll believe in? And that's really what I'm just trying to find out. I think everyone's spiritual journey. You don't, just like in life, you don't arrive at a destination, a concrete opinion. No. It's always changing and it's always forming. So right now where I'm at, and meditation has really helped that. Starting that at age 14. I think the first time I took psychedelics, I was 15. I think I was.
Tell me this wasn't at school. Was this at school?
No, definitely not at school. So I took psychedelics when I was something like that. Okay. and I think you have to take them for the right reasons. I took LSD for my first ever time, and you have to take them for the right reasons, and I'd been meditating for 2 years at that point. And for me, it was more just about like self-discovery. As I said, for me, like I just want to find the truth about everything. And
you're embarking on a plant medicine journey now, so tell us a little bit about that.
So I'm going to Mexico in a month, actually, for my first ever ayahuasca retreat, which is going to be...
What was the calling for that?
The calling for that is the past 2 years, 2018 and 2019, I have quite literally attained, I mean, at age 19, to be honest, like attained everything you would ever want. Quite frankly, that, you know, to be one of, if not the most respected in my specific niche, in my specific industry, in my age.
Are, for sure. Yeah.
Financially, to basically be able to buy anything I want ever. I mean, except for maybe a yacht or like a private jet.
You don't want a yacht. That muscle. Yeah.
No. Those are things. You know, those are things that own you rather than you owning them. So I agree with you there. But you know, basically, just in every area of my life, just complete competence.
You're blessed. You have so much abundance, and not just material, but you've impacted so many people's lives.
And just in my relationships, like one thing that everyone always, whether that be business associates, new friends that come into my circle, everyone's always just like, why do you have such amazing friends? Like, you have such amazing spirit, and to me, I think it's you attract what you are. Absolutely.
And you're the summation of those people that you spend that time with. That's the energy and the vibration that rolls around you. I truly believe that.
So for me, I'm literally, sometimes I have to think about just how incredibly blessed I am. Yet, these days, just to be quite frank, and you know, it's kind of difficult for me to say, I feel very little. I don't feel very much emotion. My high, I mean, my highs are, you know, there's very few people, as I said, who experience the highs that I feel. In terms of my relationships, in terms of honestly, my ego at every point is just hammered with positive affirmation. And I have, you know, I have achieved such incredible highs, but also had such ridiculous lows. And there are, you know, even my friends sometimes, they'll be like, Iman, in a single day you made enough to buy 2 apartments in Chelsea in a 24-hour window. Like, how are you not more like, how are you not more happy about this? Most people work.
Is it that you're not happy, or is it that you're looking at it through a different lens? I'm just like, well, what's that really going to change in my life? And then my lowest lows are very interesting. My lowest lows, I have had people ask me, they're like, dude, you have literally been through such extreme trauma. Like, how does that not affect you? Or even just financial stress at the age of 18. You know, having to spend hundreds of thousands on your mom's divorce settlement. You know, how does that? That's a big pressure for someone
at 18.
Yeah, that's incredible.
You know, and once again, the really low lows, I'm just like, it's what it is. So for me, you know, my reason for doing ayahuasca is twofold. First things first is you don't know what you don't know. And I love that. You don't know what you don't know. And if there is an aspect in an area of my personality or my psyche that I'm not happy with, I would have actively ironed it out by now. So for me to tap into the next level, I have to realize, as I said, you don't know what you don't know. So I'm hoping that something comes up where I'm like, okay, that's the next thing to focus on, and that's the next area that I need to put my attention towards, because as I said, I'm a strong achiever. So even when it comes to my spiritual journey,
you want to achieve most spiritual. So basically, in a year, you'll be like the grand shaman of like Mexico.
I'll be levitating.
Sitting here with one of those hats and like a little weavy thing. Do you? Firstly, actually, jokes aside, I love that, because I think you're going into a very different, profound paradigm. You've done and achieved so much in such a short span of time, realistically. and what you've done is something that people would aspire to in a whole traditional lifetime, in a traditional mindset. You've transcended that. I'm using that word specifically. So you've transcended that, and now I suppose you're going into your spiritual transcendence journey, I guess now. So I'm so excited to hear what that brings for you and where that takes you. Do you feel like sometimes that you want to feel more, that you're numb, or do you feel like you see things in a different way?
I think, to be entirely honest, so
like, do you feel blocked, that you're not open enough?
So first things first is yes. So even when it comes to when I'm talking to my team or clients or customers, I'm very flowy, but most of the time I feel very stifled. I feel very in my head. I feel very, and that's because business makes you. I mean, I'm building systems all day as a business owner. That's what I'm like. That to me, that's what building a business is. You're building systems, removing yourself, etc., etc. So there's two things to that. First things first is I genuinely believe that with the level of stimulation that I have at my age, and just as I said, level of stimulation and physical external things, and that's not stopping anytime soon. As I said, just with my personality, I have no,
you're going to keep game changing. I can't see you yet.
And as I said, it's not only in terms of just the hedonistic aspect of things. Like, even just like, to be quite honest, in 5 days I'm going with my team to Nepal to visit the 3 schools that we built.
I wanted to ask you about that, but finish what you were going to say on feeling blocked.
To visit the 3 schools that we built out there, and like, once again, my friends are like, do you not realize that you're 19 and you've literally funded 3 schools in Nepal?
Yeah, it's incredible. That is really amazing.
It's incredible, but I'm going to be entirely honest with you, I don't feel a thing.
Really?
And I think that is the most sad.
But hang on a second, you're saying you don't feel a thing, but what made you want to do that then? Or whose idea was that to build those schools?
For me, I mean, look, for me it was all about helping myself first, because I knew that I had to make myself strong before I could help the people around me. Then it was about taking care of my mom. I mean, she was always my biggest motivator.
Yeah.
Then it was about taking care of my friends that have been with me from the beginning. Then it was taking care of a general sphere of people, and I do that through my education company and my social media and the free content that I put out there. And then for me it was about philanthropy, and it's always been that way.
So, but what pushed you to the philanthropic side? Because you have to feel something, I guess, to want to do the philanthropy. Or were you thinking of it in a systems way?
No, it's not a systems way. At this point, there's not a single thing that I could, except for like, and I geek out about little things. So like, even like I love watches. And the other week I bought like a Snoopy Timex collab, like a little 45, and
oh, I love that.
And like, I got more excited about that watch than, my other my Patek Philippe's.
So you're not as blocked as you think you are.
I'm trying to let out that like little, and that's the other reason that I'm going on that ayahuasca retreat, is because sometimes I feel as though I lost that inner child, and I want it back.
Yeah.
And
oh my God, that's such a powerful thing that you say, because I felt that. I was 14 when I left home, and I felt I was so responsible from such a young age. And after my awakening experience, after being sick, now it's just like, I don't want any boundaries. There's no barriers. It's game on. I want to be like my 4-year-old little girl. So I totally get that. It is in a way reclaiming your lost childhood. Yeah.
So
beautiful.
Exactly as you said, and
it's making me emotional.
And I worry that, as I said, because there's so much outside external stimulation, and as I said, not even just from a hedonistic perspective, just even in terms of like the philanthropy that we're doing, like, this year, just in the past 3 months, over 150,000 pounds, spent on building these 3 schools. Next year.
That's incredible. That really is. That's amazing. Whatever your core reason or movement behind that, I feel, without getting too spiritual about it, that there is a flow through you. There's something that comes through you.
But I need to get in touch with it.
Yeah.
And I feel as though right now I'm not. And I feel as though, as I said, to me, it doesn't matter what goes on externally and how many blessings I have and how many blessings I can give to other people. If I can't feel it, then, you know, and for me, I worry that, like, as I said, because of this stimulation at the age that I have, I don't want to know what it's like if I don't fix this and I'm 26 or 27. I still don't. And I'm not talking about the good stuff that happens. I'm talking about the horrific stuff that happens. I feel no emotion towards it. I go ahead and I plow through it. I worry what happens at 26 or 27, and I've seen a lot of people, mainly when they come from, I mean, you see it all the time with actors, footballers, stuff like that.
Well, everyone, we see it here, I see it here, everyone, and suddenly it just hits them. So I get what you're saying. I instinctively don't feel that's what it would. I'm just having this really weird deja vu, like we've done this before, or we were meant to do this. I don't see that for you. I see this just as another door, another veil being lifted, and you going up another level. We all have wounds to heal. We all carry wounds and trauma, and we deal with it in different ways. Some of us use that as the greatest inspiration and driver, and other people might find it more difficult to get out of bed. That there's different people and different levels. But yeah, I think a whole new world is opening up to you, and I am thrilled to hope I'd be able to witness it and that you come back and share it with us. I think that's amazing. Tell me if there was a piece of advice that you would give to someone your age who aspires to be like you, aspires to do what you want to do. What's the best, most solid piece of advice you'd give them?
I think, as I said, you need to go through a paradigm to understand it. So for me, I think everything in life is cyclical, and I think you need to, in my opinion, if you're young, first things first, just from a tactical perspective, you should be stacking as many positive habits as possible. You've inspired me. I'm not even kidding. I feel inspired. I'm like, okay, Aya, I can't miss a day of meditation. You've actually just made me more accountable, and I need to start being a lot more proactive in my stacking my good habits. It honestly, it makes a person, and if you can start it young, for me, if I don't,
oh god, yeah, that's golden.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I don't for me, if I don't meditate, as I said, I notice it. If I don't go to the gym, I notice it. If I don't have my nighttime routine, my morning routine, I notice it. So just from a tactical perspective, I'm telling you that I genuinely believe, in terms of building a very successful business and sort of the financial career aspect of it, 80-90% is made up of your habits. And it's just the really simple stuff that everyone else doesn't really think about.
It's the simple stuff that can sometimes be the hardest to do.
Yeah, 100%. You know?
Like you'll come home from a meeting or you'll come home from a long day and you know what you need to do. It's just so hard. So it's just about, it's that X factor. It's that X factor of willpower that you just know that this is just going to push through the pain and it's for my highest good and my highest gain. And the younger you learn that, you're so right. The younger you learn that, the better.
So that's from a sort of tactical perspective. From a more general life wisdom perspective, I'd say if you're young, build a very successful business and then go to Argentina and learn how to bareback ride horses.
Yes.
And
tango and dance the tango,
salsa.
Yes.
And then go live in Bali for a bit and then go live in New York and work 16-hour days. My point is, experience every single thing you can, because you'll always wonder if you always think the grass is greener, and as I said, you need to go through a paradigm to understand it.
And it's not. Yes, absolutely.
So for me, the beautiful thing is, like, I go through. I did the 2 months in Bali, trying out the digital nomad lifestyle.
Yeah.
I did the let's work 12-hour days and just have this monastic focus on my business and revenue and just being very rigid in my, and then even the past 4 or 5 months I've actually the past 4 or 5 months, you know, to be honest, I'd say deep focus work. I've been working maybe 4 or 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
And this summer, keep in mind, if you talked to me earlier this year, very rarely there'd be a case where I'd be in bed past 10 p.m.
Okay.
Most of the time I'd be in bed by 9:30, room set at the perfect temperature, everything set at the perfect everything was so regimented and to the point. And this summer, most evenings I'd be drinking rosé and having calamari, and
that sounds pretty good too. They both sound
pretty good lifestyle. But my point is, you know, I went through 3, 4, 5 month period where, you know, I let my hair down and I let go of my routines, and I saw what that was like and saw how I felt. So my point is, you know, if you're young and you're watching this, you have such a blessing in the fact that you have time to experience all these different facets of life, and
get out there
and just see what makes you happy.
I was going to end on that note because our podcast is called The Beautiful Truth, so I was going to ask you, what's your beautiful truth? And it'd be different for everybody. So, but I think you kind of just answered it. Mm-hmm. Just wrap it up in that vein for us again. Iman Gadzhi's beautiful truth is?
My beautiful truth is, and as I said, I hate the fact that I'm saying this because I sound like every Instagram motivational page, but to be quite frank, there is no destination. Yeah. It is all about the journey, and the best part is you'll forget that. You'll forget that a lot, and life will remind you a lot. Yeah. So I'd say that's my beautiful truth.
There's nothing really I can add. Soak it all up, and thank you so much for your time, your presence, and just your spirit here tonight. I'm grateful.
I love you too.
Oh my God, right.